Welcome, adventurers. Today, we're diving into the heart of Middle-earth with two incredible hobbit tales. First, we'll journey with Elinor Brandybuck, a hobbit who sets off on a cozy yet thrilling adventure beyond the Shire, discovering that even the simplest travels can be filled with wonder. Then, we'll follow Falin Took, a brave hobbit who ventures into the wild unknown, facing creatures and challenges that test his courage in ways he never imagined. Grab your pipes and cozy up, because these stories are sure to spark the adventurer in all of us. Let's get started. The quiet adventure of a hobbit's dream. In the peaceful land of the Shire, beneath the golden sun that bathed the rolling hills and sparkling streams, a small hobbit named Elinor Brandybuck had always felt something missing in her otherwise perfect life. Her days were spent tending to her garden, baking pies, and chatting with her friends at the Green Dragon Inn. But somewhere deep within her heart, she felt a yearning for something more, an adventure of her own, far from the hearthfires and the homely comforts of the Shire. One afternoon, as Elinor sat on the front porch of her cozy little hobbit hole, her eyes caught a glimmer of something in the distance. It was an old, tattered map fluttering in the breeze, and as if guided by fate itself, it came to a rest at her feet. Picking it up, Elinor unrolled the map, her heart racing as she traced her fingers along the delicate parchment. The map was dotted with mysterious locations, far beyond the borders of the Shire, places she had only heard whispered of in stories. Rivendell, Mirkwood, Erebor, and even beyond the misty mountains. Her curiosity bloomed like the flowers in her garden, and despite all her reservations, she knew it was time. She packed a small satchel with supplies, her favorite book, a loaf of fresh bread, and a few of her homemade pastries, and set out toward the unknown. Elinor's journey was not grand like those of the famous adventurers of Middle-earth, but it was hers, and it had all the excitement she could dream of. She wandered through quiet forests, where the tall trees whispered ancient tales, and crossed clear rivers that sparkled like diamonds. As she walked, she couldn't help but feel the warmth of the sun on her face, and the joy of simply being out in the world, beyond the familiar comforts of home. One evening, as the stars began to twinkle above her, she found herself in a soft, sheltered glade beside a bubbling stream. The air smelled of pine and earth, and the sound of crickets filled the night. There, she set up her little camp, a small fire crackling merrily beside her. She roasted the last of her sausages over the flames, the scent mixing with the fresh pine air, and with a contented sigh, she settled down to sleep beneath the blanket of stars. But in the middle of the night, Elinor was awoken by a soft, rustling sound. She sat up quickly, her heart racing. Was it a bear, a wolf, or perhaps something far more frightening? But when she looked around, there was nothing to be seen. The rustling came again, followed by a soft giggle. Elinor's curiosity got the better of her, and she rose from her blanket, stepping quietly toward the source of the noise. She stumbled upon a small clearing where two hobbits, just like her, were sitting around a tiny campfire. They were not from the Shire. Elinor could tell by their mismatched clothes and their wild, untamed hair. One of them was a male hobbit with an oversized hat that had seen better days, and the other, a female hobbit, was playing a tune on a strange instrument that sounded almost like a harp, but was shaped like a large leaf. "Well now, what have we here?" the male hobbit said with a mischievous grin. "I didn't mean to intrude," Elinor stammered, embarrassed. "Not at all," said the female hobbit, putting down her instrument and offering Elinor a seat by their fire. "We're just travelers like you, making our way across Middle-earth. But we tend to take things slow. Life's a bit too fast for us, you know." Elinor nodded, understanding. "I'm Elinor Brandybuck. I've never traveled far from the Shire, but I found this map, and I wanted to see what lay beyond." "Ah, you found one of those, did you?" The male hobbit chuckled, tossing a small stone into the fire. "We've got a few of our own. Can't say we found much of the grand adventure everyone talks about, but we've certainly had some cozy times." The three hobbits spent the rest of the night chatting under the stars. They swapped stories of their homes. Elinor spoke of the Shire's festivals and feasts. The other hobbits shared their tales of the little adventures they'd embarked upon. They all agreed that the best adventures were often the simple ones. A good meal shared with friends, the warmth of a fire on a cold night, the feeling of walking through forests that seemed to go on forever. In the morning, after a hearty breakfast of warm bread and cheese, Elinor thanked her new friends and set off once more, her heart lighter and her mind at peace. She knew she would remember the little campfire and the stories they had shared for the rest of her days. Days turned into weeks, and Elinor continued on her journey. She passed through ancient woods where the trees seemed to lean in close, watching over her, and crossed wide plains that stretched out endlessly. But no matter how far she went, she always found little moments of quiet wonder, an unexpected picnic in a meadow filled with wildflowers, a warm meal shared with a group of dwarves at a roadside inn, or a cozy night spent with a family of elves, listening to their beautiful songs. One evening, as Elinor sat on a hilltop overlooking a peaceful valley, she realized that the adventure she had always dreamed of wasn't about grand battles or epic quests. It was about the little things, the friendships made along the way, the kindness of strangers, the beauty of nature, and the warmth of a cozy fire. These were the true treasures of Middle-earth. And with that thought in her heart, Elinor Brandybuck, adventurer, traveler, and hobbit, smiled contentedly. She knew that she had found what she had been searching for all along. The end. Wow, what a journey we've just experienced. From the quiet and cozy adventure of Elinor Brandybuck, finding peace and friendship in the simple moments of Middle-earth, to the bold and daring quest of Falin Took, who braved dangerous lands and creatures far beyond the Shire. Both stories remind us that adventure isn't always about grand battles or treasures. It's about the lessons we learn and the courage we find along the way. Whether it's the warmth of a campfire or the thrill of facing the unknown, Middle-earth has a way of showing us the magic in every moment. Stay tuned for more incredible tales from the heart of Tolkien's world. The journey beyond the wilds. It was the edge of autumn in the Shire, and the winds had begun to carry a chill that hinted at the coming winter. But for Falin Took, a young hobbit of the Took's family, the season marked something else entirely, an itch that could not be scratched. He had grown up hearing stories of faraway lands, of ancient forests and distant mountains where the brave ventured and the mighty fell. He had heard about the exploits of his cousins, Meriadoc and Peregrine, and the tales of the great ring-bearer, Frodo Baggins. But unlike the other hobbits of the Shire, Falin felt a burning desire in his heart to go beyond the familiar fields and rolling hills. One evening, after a long day of helping in the family garden, Falin wandered down to the old Took's barn, a place he'd never visited before. It was there, in the dim light of the fading sun, that he found a dusty old chest. Its hinges creaked as he opened it, revealing a collection of maps, trinkets, and forgotten scrolls. Among them lay an old letter, sealed with wax, and a map that showed paths far beyond the borders of the Shire, paths that led to Mirkwood, to the Lonely Mountain, and even to the dreaded lands of Mordor. His heart raced. These were not the kind of places any hobbit ever visited, but the map had called to him. With a sense of resolve, Falin knew what he had to do. He packed a small bag, his favorite pipe, a few pieces of bread, a flask of water, and a cloak his father had passed down to him, and set off under the cover of night. The road to adventure was not easy, even for a hobbit as determined as Falin. For days, he journeyed through the fields, crossing rivers and climbing over hills, the distant outline of the misty mountains growing ever closer. He encountered all manner of creatures, along the way talking birds, who warned him of trolls, a band of wandering dwarves who shared their stories over campfires, and elves who spoke of the ancient powers still lurking in the dark corners of the world. But despite all the wonders of the world, Falin felt his heart growing heavier, with the realization that he was venturing far beyond the Shire's peaceful borders. One evening, as he passed through a dense forest of tall, crooked trees, Falin heard a low growl from the shadows. His heart skipped a beat. He had heard tales of wolves that roamed these woods, creatures of darkness and hunger. From the gloom emerged a creature with glowing yellow eyes, a warg, its massive form crouching in the underbrush. Falin's mind raced. He had only ever heard of these beasts in the tales told around hearthfires, but there was no time for fear. With a swift movement, Falin unslung his small dagger, though it seemed laughable in the face of such a beast. The warg snarled, its teeth sharp as daggers, and it lunged at him. With no time to think, Falin darted to the side, grabbing a branch from the ground and swinging it at the creature. The warg howled in pain, but it wasn't enough. As the beast circled back for another attack, Falin remembered the old tales of the great warriors who faced down monsters and beasts of the wild. It wasn't the strength or the weapon that mattered. It was the will to survive. Suddenly, Falin heard the crack of a bowstring. An arrow shot through the air, striking the warg in the side. The beast howled once more, then collapsed, vanquished by the elven archer who had appeared from the shadows. "Are you all right, young hobbit?" asked a tall elf, his face serene and his voice calm. Yes, I think so," Falin replied, his voice trembling as he lowered his dagger. "Thank you. I wasn't sure I was going to make it." The elf, his eyes bright with a knowing smile, nodded. The wilds are not forgiving, but they offer great lessons to those brave enough to face them. Come, there is safety in the elven wood for travelers like you. Falin followed the elf through the dense forest, which soon opened up to a clearing of towering trees, bathed in silver light. The air felt crisp, and the sound of distant waterfalls could be heard. This was the realm of the wood elves, and for the first time since he had left the Shire, Falin felt a sense of peace. He was not alone in this vast world. There were others who understood the wilds, who had walked paths he could not even imagine. As night fell, the elves gathered around a fire, and Falin joined them, his heart swelling with a sense of awe. They shared songs of the ancient world, songs of forests and stars, of rivers that ran with the wisdom of ages. Falin listened intently, captivated by their melodies, feeling as though he were being pulled deeper into the mysteries of Middle-earth. The next morning, the elf who had saved Falin's life handed him a small token, a crystal pendant that glowed faintly in the sunlight. "Keep this with you, young hobbit," the elf said. "It will guide you when the darkness seems too much to bear." Falin thanked the elf and continued on his journey, now with a renewed sense of determination. He was no longer just a hobbit from the Shire. He was a traveler of Middle-earth, a part of something far larger than himself. He passed through the misty mountains, encountering dwarves who offered him hearty food and warm company, and crossed into Mirkwood, where the shadows seemed to whisper secrets. His journey took him to the very gates of the lonely mountain, where he stood before the towering peaks, looking out over the wide world. He realized that the adventure he had been seeking wasn't about discovering treasure or fame. It was about discovering himself, about testing his courage and his resolve in the face of the unknown. But there was one final test waiting for him. Deep within the heart of the lonely mountain, Falin uncovered an ancient, forgotten treasure, a small chest of jewels, its lock shaped like a dragon's head. Yet, as he reached out to touch it, the ground trembled and a voice echoed in his mind. "The treasure is not for you, hobbit," it said. "The true adventure lies not in what you take, but in what you leave behind." Falin withdrew his hand, the chest gleaming in the dim light. He turned and walked away, knowing that his journey was far from over. The world of Middle-earth was vast, and there was always another road to follow, another adventure waiting just beyond the horizon. With a heart full of stories, Falin Took returned to the Shire, knowing that his journey had changed him forever. It had been an adventure beyond his wildest dreams, and yet, as he sat on the porch of his cozy hobbit hole, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he realized that sometimes the greatest adventure of all is simply to return home, with the memories of a world far greater than he could ever have imagined. That was quite the adventure, wasn't it? From quiet moments of friendship to daring journeys into the unknown, Middle-earth never fails to inspire. Whether you're seeking the comfort of a warm fire or the thrill of exploring distant lands, these stories remind us that the heart of adventure lies within us all. If you enjoyed these tales, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting journeys from the world of Tolkien. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep adventuring, and may the stars guide your way.